Hi, this is Boki, and today I am going to be doing my wrap-up for what I read in February, as well as a currently reading slash TBR for March. To be honest, February was actually not a great reading month for me. I had kind of a bit of a rut, I think, and I'm still trying to work my way out of it, so I usually do these videos in order of like how much I liked books. Like I first categorize the books that I didn't finish or didn't like, then I do my meh, like they were kind of okay books, and then my like books, and then my love books. And this is probably more weighted towards the did not finish, I did not like these books, which is unfortunate because nobody wants that. But you know, it happens. In my did not finish pile were actually a bunch of romances, which was a little bit frustrating because especially when I'm in a rut, romances are really usually a good way for me to get out of that rut. They're really easy, they're fast to read, they're usually pretty reliable, but this was just one of those months where all the ones I've read just didn't hit me the way that I wanted to, or I just didn't like them. First book in my did not finish pile is a book that I was really excited for called At Like It by Lucy Parker. And this is a contemporary romance novel set sort of in the theater world of London. And it's about two actors who end up in this publicity relationship. The actor has a really bad reputation because he gets in fights all the time, and the actress is brought in to help kind of clean up his image a little bit. I don't know, I think I got about halfway through and I'm just not into it, and I was disappointed because a lot of people really like this book, so I had high hopes for it. I don't like the characters, I don't dislike them, I just don't care about them, and the writing is really disjointed. I think books that are trying to be witty are like especially in need of editing because it's easy to kind of get overboard and really disrupt the flow of your writing and lose sight of the story, and that's kind of what this book felt like for me. The next up is Party Politics by Emma Barry. For some reason, with everything going on in the world, I thought that reading a romance novel set in the DC world of bullshit was going to work for me, and it did for a little bit. The protagonists are a waspy heroine who has been really good at connecting with people in fundraising, but has to kind of downplay her intelligence a lot of the time, and she is now potentially on the hook for some strange funding issues, so she is trying to figure out who is behind it so that her name does not get dragged through the mud. She enlists the help of this political blogger who has always had a crush on her, and yeah, this is one of those books where the characters kind of get together early on, and that always is a little bit nerve-wracking for me. I think Act Like This had the same issue where when characters get together very easily early on in the book, my anxiety goes up because you know that something really stupid is going to like potentially come up between them later on, and it's just a thing. Maybe it's not going to happen, but that's just what hits me, and that is what makes me stop reading because I just don't feel like dealing with that. That's my personal taste, at least. The third book is Tycoon by Joanna Shupe. I've talked about her romance books before, and I'm actually going to talk about another one. This is a novella that's part of the Knickerbocker series. And yeah, I don't know, I think this is part of the reason why I didn't finish this is because I had just finished reading Mogul, which is in my kind of meh books, and I was starting to feel a little bit disappointed in how that went, and so I think it became a little bit easier for me to be with this book like, nah, I don't really want to finish this. Speaking of Mogul, going into that kind of like meh, these are only kind of okay books, this is actually the only book in that category for today. Mogul, like I just said, is part of the Knickerbocker series by Joanna Shupe, and one of the things that I really like about the series is it's set during the Gilded Age in the US, which I think is a really specific era that we don't really get a lot of in, you know, romance. Usually their historical romances are more Regency oriented. I really enjoyed just the setting itself. So I was really excited for Mogul because this was a mending broken relationships kind of story. So the hero and the heroine had actually been married a long time before, but very quickly had gotten divorced because of some meddling by the heroine's father. So they end up becoming reunited later on when she's trying to figure out some threats that are coming her brother's way, and so she teams up with the hero. One of the things that I thought was interesting about this book, and that I think was done at some points in good ways that kind of redeemed it a little bit, and then at times that frustrated me a little bit, was that it featured a lot of Chinese characters. So it had quite a bit to do with Chinatown, the Chinese Exclusion Act, and there are various Chinese characters who are brought in throughout the book. So that was an added layer of diversity that you don't always get. Also a black character who features pretty heavily in the book and kind of has his own romantic side plot, so I thought that was nice. I think what's hard, and this is not for me to get offended by because this is not my culture, but just speaking from the Asian, like, first generation experience, something that comes up at least with a lot with portrayals of brown people and that I've seen mirrored in portrayals of East Asian people is this insistence on honor, and that our families are always worried about honor. And I'm not saying that's not a part of the culture, I can't speak to that, but just the fact that that trope gets brought up so much in these books, particularly around women, it's just something that for me starts to get very grating and that I don't really enjoy. It did play a big role in this book, and I felt like in particular the female Chinese characters were pretty sidelined. Most of the Chinese characters were men. The women were like primarily romantic interests but who had very little communication with even the other female characters. And so for me that just kind of nagged in my head. On top of all of that kind of, you know, baggage, I just wasn't that into the main characters. I thought they were both kind of dumb. Like, some of the issues they had could have just been easily solved by talking. And like, by the end, some of their fundamental relationship issues have not been solved. They actually happen again. So it's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know if any of you guys watch Vanderpump Rules, but if you do, it kind of felt like Tom and Katie this season, where like, they're just repeating the same things over and over again and are doomed for failure, at least as that show portrays their relationship. Anyways, that's my side rant. Anyway, so yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. I do not have any books in my like kind of category for the month, but I do have one in my love, which is All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders. This book is about two kids, Patricia and Lawrence, who start off as outcasts in their own respects. Lawrence is very, very technologically geeky, and Patricia is very like obsessed with witches. She has talked to birds before, and that carries through her interactions with people, and that causes a lot of problems for her socially. They actually get separated early on during their school years, and they come back to know each other as adults when the world is basically falling apart. And what I really loved about this book is how it brings about what I think of as two different kind of images of science. Lawrence is very much dealing with machines, which I think is often what people think of most immediately when they think of science. They think of like circuit boards and programming. And Patricia is not strictly doing science. She's a witch, but she's interacting with nature. What she's doing, what she is very analogous to like, you know, like hippie science, like kind of conservationists. And I think what was interesting to me was kind of how their story over the course of the book reflects maybe the tensions between these two different approaches to saving the world. And I really, really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed their friendship. The writing in this is so beautiful. I felt very melodic, and I just really enjoyed reading it. What I was really amazed by is that a book with so much like magic and world building going on is actually not that long, and it doesn't actually go that in depth to the worlds, but it does it in a way that you feel like you get a lot of the idea of what's happening without having to have it all explicitly laid out. So I really love this book. I'm probably going to buy it at some point. I really, really enjoyed it, so I would definitely recommend checking out All the Birds in the Sky. So what I'm reading right now is A Study in Scarlet Women by Sherry Thomas. This is a gender swap version of Sherlock Holmes, where Sherlock Holmes is now Charlotte Holmes. I started this a few weeks ago. I'm a little bit iffy on it. I really, really love Sherlock Holmes. I have been marathoning Elementary right now. I'm very particular about my Sherlock Holmes adaptations. I think like a lot of people, when there's a source material that you really love, any adaptation, you're kind of expecting certain marks to be hit, whether or not it's fair to expect the authors to hit them. And one of the things that's kind of hitting me the wrong way, just based on my own like vision of Sherlock Holmes, is that there seems to be an underlying romance to this book that I don't know that I'm pro, that I think is supposed to be like Sherlock is like in love, and I'm not sure that I like that. But that's like a very specific issue to take. I think what I'm basically doing in the meantime is kind of avoiding treating it like an actual straight up Sherlock Holmes adaptation. And and thinking of it just like as more loosely inspired by Sherlock Holmes, so that way those little details don't bother me as much. And we'll see how it goes. I'm enjoying it so far, I think, in that vein. I think it'll be fun. I think it's pretty lighthearted. It's kind of like Deanna Raybourn's Lady Julia Gray series. So I also have The Vegetarian by Han Kang checked out. I think most people who are loosely associated with the book world have heard about this book by now because it won the Booker Prize. I think ostensibly it's supposed to be about a woman who decides to become vegetarian, but is not actually about that. I honestly don't know what to expect. Literary fiction does not always work for me because I like things that are very plot driven, that are not that abstract, and I find that at least the books that I've read in literary fiction are not in that category. So I'm curious about how this will go. I'm just interested to see what the book is like. And yeah, we'll see. So the last set of books that I'm reading are the Lady Snowblood books. So these are manga written by Kazuo Koike and Kazuo Kamimura. I apologize if I'm messing up. So Lady Snowblood is basically one of those female revenge genres that I am super fascinated by. I love femme fatales. I love dangerous women in literature. I'd seen that this series had been brought to Comixology and I was like really curious about it, and luckily my library had it. It also heavily inspired Quentin Tarantino and Kill Bill. I think in particular the character of Oren Ishii is heavily inspired by Lady Snowblood, so I am really excited to read this series. I think one of my goals for 2017 was to read more manga, so this series will definitely fall in line with that. One of the things that I always feel when you are in a reading rut is that breaking into different genres than you usually read is a good way to go. And it's been a long time since I've read manga, so I'm thinking that hopefully this will be a good kind of disruption to my usual reading material in a way that will, you know, get me out of my rut for a little bit. Just another note, for those of you who don't watch my Not My Thesis videos, something that I noted in my most recent one is that I am kind of dealing with a lot of work and stress right now, just with my lab stuff. So my video output is starting to get a little bit more infrequent. I'm trying to figure out what will work best for me and my schedule and what I want to make. But one of the things that I'm asking is that if there are certain videos or certain types of videos or certain things that you particularly like about this channel, if you could let me know, that would be great, because I will definitely kind of consider that as I am prioritizing what I want to do, with my time going forward. Because ideally, I would just be able to sit and make videos all day and read books all the time and also be able to publish all the science, but fortunately, life. Thank you for watching. I hope you had a better reading month than me, and hopefully this upcoming month will be better. So yeah, bye.